So getting. I mean, we're just gonna go and using Nathan as a springboard here tonight. I'm just gonna jump right into some things that are going on. We're gonna touch on news topics for the main thing in the first part of this, and I pre-rolled these through Nathan and Hopper before we got started. But the first thing that I want to kind of talk about, and it has one name involved, but I want to say that there's really 3 or 4 here that are kind of floating around that are kind of hidden. And has anybody heard anything recently about what is going on with Dr. Disrespect? There's been
Oh.
there's been really nothing really announced yet, but there's some other things I'm kind of curious about, what everybody is kind of thinking about what's going on here right now. Hopper,
Nathan, you
go
want to
first.
start off on this one? Me first? All
Yeah, go
right.
ahead.
Um, I mean, in my mind, not a lot has changed. Obviously, he's come out and said a few things in some interviews, which again, it's been very, walking the legal line of not saying too much, not giving too many things away, not not denying or not accepting anything that's been said. Just letting people know, he's still here. He's trying to figure out what's going on as well. Um, which makes you think obviously there's something serious. Because if it wasn't serious, you can talk about it. Something serious, you got to walk that gray line of what can you say and what can't you say. So I think there's still a lot we don't know, and it's going to be a while before we hear anything. And till then, Doc's going to live on as an internet mystery, and the anticipation. That's a tough word. The anticipation will build. That's my words.
Nathan?
Yeah, so the whole situation is definitely interesting. I think I don't know. There's no news. There's nothing that is really coming out, and arguably any article that's come out since PC Gamer is really just people. In my opinion, it's companies or people or news agencies trying to grab the attention by having an article that says Doctor Disrespect in the title. Um, since the interview 2 weeks ago, no, there's nothing. Nobody knows anything. Arguably, anybody that says they do is probably just vying for attention. I do think the situation is really interesting. Where it's going to go, what he's going to do, and what that means for the greater Twitch community, I think is going to be really interesting, just because of the impact he had. But at this point, yeah, I mean, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody but him and his staff have any idea what is going to happen.
Do
I
you
think
get
where he chooses to go next or how he chooses to pivot post Twitch, I think is really going to have a potential impact on the Twitch community. If he goes to another streaming platform, the potential of him dragging some viewers with him is there. But how much that will impact Twitch, I mean, we're not going to know until we see it happen.
do you and we'll go with Hopper first on this one as well. Do you believe that every day that he waits, he loses relevance to some extent?
I don't personally think so, just because of the hype behind who he was. It's going to be a long time. I don't have an exact calculation for the amount of time that would need to pass for his relevance to fade. I mean, even if it's a year from now and there's a Doc coming back moment, it's going to draw major attention. And like Nathan said, until that moment happens, people are just feeding off using his name as clickbait.
Nathan?
Yeah, I don't know. What's going to happen with him? Yeah, it's going to be really up in the air. I don't know. It could be really impactful. It could be really not. When it comes to his relevance, I mean, I think he is losing. I think he is losing his audience as time goes by. The longer he waits, the more likely that some of his audience will find another stream that they also enjoy, and that's where they're going to spend their time. But when he does come back, as Hopper just said, like it's going to be news. It's going to be a big deal. So I don't know. I just don't know. Honestly, it's hard to guess. I think he has a lot of really dedicated fans, and those people will absolutely go back. But there's going to be some that look at how much they, let's say, budget to spend on Twitch on a regular basis, and they may have found another stream that they really enjoy, and potentially a smaller stream that they really enjoy that maybe is even more interactive than Doc could be at his size. and some of those viewers may not come back because they now have a stream that maybe they enjoy spending time in even more.
I'm kind of in I guess I'm right in the middle. Maybe not right in the middle of you, because it's kind of a little bit of what Nathan was saying, I think, where I agree that every day, or I feel every day, you're right. He is losing relevance. He is dropping some of his credibility. He is losing his fame and fortune that he's kind of grown over time. But just like Nathan kind of said, I think as soon as he comes back, the announcement is going to be so big, right? And it's going to be this huge production. It's going to be commercials and advertising, and there's going to be so much involved because that's who he is, that you're going to see so much about it that most of the people that were like, oh, okay, yeah, right, they're just going to go right back to him, right? Because that's what they loved before, right? They loved that huge level of production that he provided and that insane attitude that he provided before. There's not a lot. I mean, at least that I've been able to see, there's not a lot of other content creators that follow that same role play type of attitude that he has, right? And I think that's what made him unique and allowed him to grow in those areas.
Yeah, there is
Oh,
very few
yeah, that's
comparable
absolutely true.
content creators.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I do believe that some of his viewers will find a new home somewhere else, somebody that they enjoy, that may or may not be the same style, but there will absolutely be people that are, what is it, the Champions Club, that are the hardcore Champions Club, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
will follow him wherever he goes.
Yeah.
So, it, yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be hard to. I don't think there's a good way to predict it, just because he was or arguably still is so big that the impact he's going to have on streaming and the gaming community, you can't underestimate it by any stretch of the imagination. So it's going to be big. I just, it'll be interesting. If he waits a really long time, I absolutely will fade.
Mhm.
I'll watch when he comes back.
Actually, I mean, that's actually a great point. If it gets announced that he's coming back, and like, let's say there's a stream scheduled, like Doc goes live tomorrow afternoon, there will be people probably like me who were not Champions Club members, who were not big into Dr. Disrespect's channel, but because of how big that news is, that I would probably show up for that just to see what happens. So yeah, it's going to be a huge event. No matter how he comes back, no matter where it is, it's going to be massive.
Yeah.
So tying into that as well, and we'll lead off with Nathan on this one. Tying into that as well, where are Ninja and Shroud right now? I mean, Ninja's been slightly. I haven't been paying attention to Shroud's Twitter at all. Ninja's been slightly active on Twitter, but the biggest thing I've seen Ninja really do recently is he had a big thing about the Joe Rogan thing that happened this week. Which I'll make we can comment on after, like that was gonna be my next roll-in thing, but like, where do you think their plans are? Or I mean, and this is all speculation, right? Again, just like Dr. Disrespect, I think this is all speculation, and this is the first time I think we've kind of seen these three individuals, maybe not Ninja because he was really quiet with the mixer shift, but these three individuals being kind of quiet and kind of really not playing the field, but using this time to really figure out where they're going to go in the future.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I think the thing with when you look at those two, when you look at any bigger stream that was affected by Mixer, if they haven't already come back online, but especially people the size of them, you kind of have to wonder if they're going to come back to streaming the same way, because the amount that they were making off of doing what they were doing, I mean, for a lot of people, it's enough to just walk away and go retire somewhere. So, will they come back? Will they, continue streaming? I mean, that'll be actually really interesting to see if maybe there's a pivot towards just focusing on YouTube content, or maybe staying on the esports side and maybe not focusing as much on streaming. I mean, honestly, if I had that much cash in my bank account, somebody told me I didn't have to come to work anymore, man, there's a lot of options.
Hopper?
I can only imagine being in that situation, right? It's like 9 figures sitting in the bank account or something like wild. Um,
Right.
I mean, obviously Shroud, Ninja, Doctor Disrespect, all those guys, three top biggest names. So again, they're in that echelon of, there's no rush. They can take their time. Like Nathan said, they're both sitting back, just kind of counting their money right now. They both got out of a deal much earlier than they planned, paid the same amount, so there's no rush. Um, I mean, I've heard rumors that Shroud might be focusing on doing Valorant esports, so he could just be dedicating time to practicing that with a team. Who knows? Um, Ninja, neither of the guys. It is funny. I know what Ninja appeared. He did what YouTube for an afternoon for like an hour and a half. So everybody was in a tizzy about that. If that was going to be his thing, but I don't. I don't necessarily see either of them coming back as full-time streamers without some big deal under their belt. Like they're not just going to come back without a signed contract for something and just doing it for the money. Which I know that sounds kind of like I don't know if that sounds money hungry still with how much money they have. Like they wouldn't just do it for fun in a sense. I mean, they'll still be making crap tons of money, but I think it's going to be like the doc. We're not going to see either of those guys live consistently for quite some time.
I I'm a little lost on that one. I don't know because we have to think Ninja has been making money. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Ninja has been making a great large sum of money, more in the tune than $30 million over the course of his Twitch career. And he took that Mixer contract. I believe he took that Mixer contract. Yes, it was a lot of signed money, but I think there was some understanding there that he was not going to get as much subscriptions, bit revenue, etc. Right? Like he understood taking that 30 million, he was not going to get nearly as much as he did at Twitch, right? Because of what's going on. Because that was supposed to be 30 million over 3 or 4 years, right? I believe.
Yes, 2 or 3. Forget
Three.
what it was exactly.
It was at least 3. So you'd say 10 million a year. Even at 10 million a year, I would have to look up on what Ninja's max sub count at any given time was. Max sub count on Twitch. I'm just curious. So Ninja at one time peaked at 270,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's $500,000 in a month going to him, and that's at the base level where again at that level you're renegotiating with. You're renegotiating.
Yeah, he would have been a partner. It would have been more.
Exactly. You're renegotiating your value on what a subscription gives you, anyways, right? So you're talking about this guy was getting $500,000 a month, right? I mean, granted that wasn't every month, but I mean, so taking $10 million, that doesn't include bit revenue, that doesn't include donations, etc. Right? You're talking about, yes, he was taking a guaranteed 10 mil a year where he didn't have to quite work as hard. He didn't have to fish for subs. He didn't have to do that type of work, but he was already getting that money and he was still signing more contracts. I really think he's trying to find the best. I really think he, just kind of like what Hopper was saying, I really think he's trying to find another big contract or another big deal. And I really think he's going to come back somewhere. And it might even turn out to be, there's these new G4 and what's the other one that just Venus or Vexa or whatever it was called that just came up. I don't know what the name of it was.
This is Ven.
Ven. There you go. Sure. But
CNN.
yeah, one of these new, these new things, maybe he turns into something like that. He becomes a co-host or a sponsor or something along that line. Maybe he goes into commentary for esports, becomes something. I don't really know, but I really do think he's looking for his next big thing that doesn't involve so much time invested into his content, right? Then that's where I think he needs to go.
G4 is actually a really interesting point. That would be a really interesting potential for some of those big names. Imagine if Ninja and Shroud have like a 1 or 2 hour block each that they're just on TV, and they've got a production crew and they've got all the other stuff that goes along with that. that's a lot less of your time a day than dealing with going live on Twitch, especially if you're doing it with a small crew or by yourself. When G4 or somebody else potentially is handling the production side of it, and you just got to show up, play some video games, and walk back out. I mean, I'm simplifying it obviously, but like,
Oh yeah.
that's an interesting thought. The fact that this is going on and then suddenly G4 pops out of nowhere, I do find that kind of interesting. What if, I mean, totally speculation, but what if the doc ends up on G4?
His TV show he's been working on.
Like, who knows? I mean, I just saying, I think the potential for TV rather than streaming is pretty interesting. You're reaching a very different audience and potentially actually in some ways a bigger audience because there's a lot of people that have no idea what Twitch is, have no idea anything about game streaming, or they hear it and they're like, oh, that's for nerds, and they walk away from it. They don't care. It's not interesting. I mean, I know that you both have seen that reaction. You say Twitch to
Oh
somebody, and
yeah.
like,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
why
yeah.
would you do that? And I'm like, well, the same reason you sit and like anybody here in
Yeah.
Seattle, the same reason you sit and watch the Mariners lose all the time. It's entertaining usually, but like the potential for TV is interesting when you compare it to Twitch. And I mean, these guys still have sponsorship deals that probably are still ongoing to some extent or another. They got their payouts from the end of Mixer. Like, as Hopper just said, there's no reason for these guys to be in any rush whatsoever to find their next, place, their next
Yeah.
home.
It's
So
it's also an interesting thing. I believe there was a comment. Who's the guy that owns the Dallas Mavericks from Shark Tank? His
Mark
name,
Cuban?
yeah, Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban came out and he started, really not bad mouthing, but turning down the concept of like what a content creator is and the idea that you continue to invest time to earn money, right? Like Mark Cuban has this concept where if you have to invest time to earn money, you're losing money because you're spending your time on it, right? You should take your money and invest it into making you more money, right? Like that should be your
Spending less
ideology.
time.
And of course that takes money to do that with, right? But he always talks about how like it was a big thing about streaming at one point in time, and he kind of went off on this little tangent about it, about how it's never going to grow, it's never going to be the big thing because people will eventually get tired, right? And he makes a statement, I have gotten tired and I've wanted to take a month off and do nothing, and he's like, I can do that because my money makes me money, right? Like I can do that and I still make money, right? These individuals, if they do that, they literally die, right? Like their whole revenue stream dies if they take any time off. And I think that, especially like, if you see Ninja, like the video he posted of Joe Rogan, and like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. But the video he posted of Joe Rogan, his hair is just looking rough. Like he's looking like he's aging, right? He's not the same man he was, right? And I think he's the
His
same.
hair always looks rough.
I think he's younger than I am, but still, whatever, right? Like he is aging, and from what people remember him being, it's a different individual, right? The kids don't come to watch Ninja play Fortnite anymore, right? They come to watch Booga, right? Booga's the next big guy or whatever, right? Like Booga's gonna be the next big guy there or whoever, right? Like I don't know anything about Fortnite, but I'm just know that's where he came from. So I think that's gonna be an interesting thing.
that's feeding back into what you were saying about from Mark Cuban though. Like if you were handed $10 million by Twitch tomorrow and they're like, yep, sorry, it didn't work out, later. I know what I would do, which is I would invest most of it and basically retire.
Oh yeah. I would never work the rest of my life.
So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I do kind of imagine that that's a potential path. Like, especially if you do the math and you're like, you know what, I don't have to work anymore. I can still maintain my lifestyle. I can play video games for fun instead of it being a job. I can play video games and not have to pay attention to chat or click a go live button or work. Like, if you take the kind of stressful parts of streaming out of it and you go back to, I'm just going to enjoy playing games because it's what I enjoy to do, or whatever, and I have $10 million sitting in my bank that I can invest most of and retire today, I wouldn't blame them if they just both went, you know what, later guys, I'm out. I'll make some amount of residual income off of the YouTube views for a long time, plus investing all these millions that I've gotten paid off a contract, why work? So I don't know. It could really go either way. I in their shoes, I think I would just retire. To be totally honest, like if somebody handed me a retirement package today and was like, you don't have to work anymore, I would have a really hard time saying no to that.
Yeah, some people out there like feel like they need to continue working and contributing. That's not me. I would happily take that money and just stick my feet up in the sand somewhere and just relax.
Right?
I
You have
probably
a
wouldn't
nice
play video
boat
games as
and be
much, to be
fishing on a
honest.
regular basis, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Doesn't Mark Cuban own part of an esports organization?
He owns the Dallas Fuel for the
Okay,
Overwatch League.
that's what I thought.
Yes. And
So he
and
doesn't
and
think it's that much of a joke.
right, no, I mean, and no, he doesn't take esports as a joke. He was specifically
Okay,
looking
content
at
creation.
like streamers in general, right? And
Gotcha.
and that kind of points to, if Shroud really misses competitive gaming and like he wants to get back into like real competitive gaming, that is exactly like you're talking about, Nathan, where you're saying like you don't have to hit the go live button, you don't have to worry about chat, you focus on being the best gamer you can be, and that becomes your new thing, right? Like that is what you want to do, and that is where you go, and if that's what you love to do, you now have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, because he's talked about the fact that like if he wanted to do it competitively, he can't do that and stream full time. Like he just wouldn't have the time to commit to practicing and the time to commit to content creation, like you said, where playing other games that people want to see, talking to chat, getting YouTube content and stuff like that. So maybe that's what he's doing. Who knows?
Like I think that would be a reasonable thing to do,
Yeah.
especially considering if you are in that position and you're very good at the game and you want to move back into esports and change kind of your part of the market. You already have all these contacts, you already have the notoriety, and the potentially the endorsement deals and whatnot. Some of that would still continue as a professional, top tier esports player rather than a Twitch streamer. So
All he has to do is express interest too with his background. Like
pretty much.
any team would take him. Like even just for the media aspect of it, like to say that we are the team with Shroud, people will watch. It's he doesn't have to be in the best of the
Absolutely.
world anymore.